to the Natick for Black Lives Matter video Zoom presentation. Today we have the esteemed filmmaker of Natick, Mr. Zodou. Zadi Zoko is also a member of Black Lives Matter, and I have dubbed him the chairperson on the steering committee of the Historical Arts Department and the African History Department. So thank you, Zadi, for coming. I feel bad for your lovely wife because I roped you in and I said, you have to do this. And I badgered you, but your wife is so precious. Thank you for her too. What's your wife's name?
Karen.
And your daughter?
Fiona.
Fiona, yes. Fiona, is that you?
No, she's in Ireland right now.
Okay, because they have Zoom in Ireland too, so I was wondering if Fiona popped in. Well, welcome, Zadi, and let's just get started. And we're going to have a half an hour of discussion, and then Elaine and Fiona, if you'd like to jump in and ask questions, go right ahead, okay?
Okay.
Now, Zadi, where were you born in Africa? What part of Africa?
Oh, I was born in the Ivory Coast. It's in West Africa. And usually I tell people it's between Ghana and Liberia, because here that's the countries people really know in West Africa, plus Nigeria. So it's a country that is located between Ghana and Liberia. Yeah, it's a French-speaking country.
Yes.
So that's where I was born.
Yes, and as you know, I speak French too, and I was telling you one of my favorite countries was the Côte d'Ivoire, probably because of the French-speaking aspect. So what is the claim of fame to fame in Côte d'Ivoire? What are your country known for in Africa?
Oh, for several things. We are known for our cocoa because we produce about 40% of the whole cocoa in the world. The number one in cocoa production. And we are known for the modern aspect of our society there. Yeah, it's especially the main city, Abidjan. Yeah, you can Google it. It's a very modern city and people really like it. Yeah. But we are famous also for soccer because we have very big soccer players. For people who are in soccer, they know a lot. Didier Drogba, Yaya Touré. Yeah, they're household names there.
Okay. Now, how did you start in your filmmaking career? I know you've done several films, and one of the notable ones is called Black in Black, where you discuss the relationship between African and African American. So did you start a filmmaking career while you were a young man in the Ivory Coast, or did it start in the United States?
I started in the Ivory Coast, yeah, I started my career as a school teacher, and then I went to the communication service of the Ministry of Education in my country. And then I can see you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then I got interested in screenwriting. And I started to write screenplays. I had a lot of trainings outside the country, like in France, in Canada, in Burkina Faso, in Tunisia, and things like that. So I was a screenwriter in my country.
Wow.
And and when I came here to the US, I couldn't write in the language, so I went to mass art to take classes in documentary filmmaking. So that's how I started documentaries. But I used to be a screenwriter, and I still am.
So excuse me, could you mute yourself? Whoever's somebody's making a sound. Elaine?
Sorry, I coughed. I will mute. Yep.
So thank you. So Zadi, is French your first language, or do you have a indigenous language that's your first language?
Oh yeah, I have my language. That's better. In my country, we have about over 60 languages, but
Yeah.
French is the one everybody speaks.
Oh, okay. So French is the national language.
Yeah,
Okay. So you took lessons in French in elementary school and high school back in.
yeah. The whole experience in school is in French.
Mhm. Okay. So could you tell us what country? Um, could could you mute yourself, Elaine?
Yeah, trying to.
Okay. Thank you. Could you tell us what countries your films have been shown in a little bit about Black on Black, what it's about, where it has been shown, what awards it's won, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You mean all my films or just Black and Black?
Black, you can talk about all of them.
Okay. No, the movie I wrote, in my country, they were shown in the whole West Africa region. Yeah, they were shown over there. I wrote some screenplays also in Burundi, in East Africa, and they were shown over there too. Now my documentaries, Praying Town, for instance, was shown all over Massachusetts because many towns invited me for screenings there.
Mhm.
Yeah, for screenings there and in film festivals. And Black was shown, let's say, all over the US. Yeah, mainly in colleges and universities and high schools and some communities and film festivals. And we had our premiere in Europe, in Paris, about 2 years ago.
Yes, and you was I saw your interview in Paris. That was very impressive. So Black on Black, is that your main feature film, would you say, or is that the most popular film, Black and Black?
Yes. Yeah, so far it's the most popular
Yes.
film so far, yeah.
Yeah, and
Documentary.
I was intrigued by the content of that film. Actually, I've been to Africa, and I've been to, as I told you, I've been to Senegal and the Gambia. And I didn't go to Cote d'Ivoire, but there are misconceptions between Africans and African Americans. Primarily, I believe that Africans believe that some African Americans are maybe lazy or we don't take advantage of the resources here, and we should. Is that one of the misconceptions you would?
Yeah, this is one of them, and there are many others also.
Yes, and I've been told that that Africans were told to stay away from African Americans. Is that something you've heard as well?
Yeah, it's something I heard. It's not something I experienced because I came here in different conditions. Yeah.
Yes.
Because I came here with my wife and things like that. So I didn't have to go through all of these things. But many Africans who come here, many of them are, they are told not to be with African Americans.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you a quick story. Sometimes they're not even told, but that's how they act. Because I was in New York a few years ago, and I met a fellow Ivorian who went there for vacation. So we're speaking, and he told me that he wanted to go to the zoo in Bronx, but he was afraid. I said, why? Everybody goes there. He said, no, I don't want to go there. It seems like it's dangerous. I said, why? He said, no. I tried to convince him that there was nothing dangerous about the zoo in New York, even if it's in Bronx. And he said, no, he's not going to go there.
This was a fellow African, you say?
An Ivorian who was here on vacation.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, that is what people are not taught in our countries, but that's what they see on TV.
Yes, so the media. I watched
so,
I watched the film, and it said it has a lot to do with the media, and also on the opposite end, African Americans are told that negative things about, well, we see negative things about Africa, and we
Yeah.
don't necessarily know anything about Africa, because as you know, we were brought over here in chains as slaves,
Mhm.
and the only thing we see on TV about Africa is like starving children and stuff like that. So when we run into African people, we have conceptions as well, misconceptions as well. Have you
Yeah.
found that too?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This I experienced that a lot. What I experience directly from African Americans is that it's the fact that I live in a town like Natick. Yeah, it's. I remember an African American who told me I was showing Praying Town at a festival in Roxbury, and he told me, "But why are you making a movie about Natick?" I said, "But that's where I live." He said, "Really? And you're comfortable living among all those white people?" I said, "So far, a few problems here and there, but that's fine. I mean, I don't have a major problem living there."
Right.
And he looked at me in the eyes and he said, "Yes, I see. You are one of those Africans who have been brainwashed."
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So I said,
well,
and that was one of the reasons why I made Black and Black afterwards.
yes. So
Because
that's good, because as a,
yeah,
I live in Natick too. Of African American. I hail from Boston. I come from Boston, but
mhm,
when I came to Natick, which is primarily white, and I
yeah,
started the movement, the Native for Black Lives Matter um, movement. What happened was I found that the people in Natick are very, very loving people, and they very accepting people, and they also because of the Native Cultural District,
mhm,
I was able to assimilate more, because I'm also an arts author. I wrote a book, Popping Beans, so
mhm.
that helped me to stay in Natick and raise my child in Natick, because there are it's not my land, it's not my home. I'm from Dorchester mostly. I'm from
Ah,
Roxborough. I'm
okay.
from Mattapan, mostly Black community. So tell us about the Praying Town film, because I watched that,
Mhm.
and I really was fascinated by the fact that I'm a minister, and the fact that John Eliot came and tried to translate the Bible into Algonquin, into the
Algonquin,
language.
yeah.
Mm. So that was fascinating to me, but also the history of Natick, um, showing that these Indian people, the Native Americans, were carted off to Deer Island. There was fighting, and I mean that's a very unique film to this region and to Massachusetts, to have that history, and to have the chief of the Native Praying Indians on that film. That was a very uh, great contribution, I would say, to the town of Natick, and actually to the United States. Did you get a lot of good reviews, or other people? How did other people react? You talked about that one African American, but what about some of the other people? How do they react? White Americans or Indians to that film,
Um,
Praying Town?
yeah, it's the reaction were good. The reviews were good, and I mean the reaction. The first reaction was my reaction, because I was surprised that many people here in Natick didn't know about this history. Because when we had the premiere at the library here in Natick, there many people came to me after the movie and told me, "Yeah, I've been living here for all my life, and I didn't know about that story." So
Wow.
really, yeah. So as we said, it's a contribution that I'm proud of, but also people got aware of that story and of the fate of the Native Americans here in Natick and Massachusetts. Yeah, that it was not just Thanksgiving.
Right.
But the story is more than Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was nice, it was cool, but there was a tragedy after Thanksgiving with King Philip's War and how they've been wiped out and the land was taken over. So I think that's something people learn, and some people were very moved by the movie and started to understand the Native American problems here in Massachusetts.
Now, King Philip was an American Indian. He was a native Indian, right? King Philip.
Yeah, his real name was Metacom. It's the English we call him King Philip.
Oh, okay. Was he what ethnic was he from? And was he
King Philip? He was from the Plymouth area, so he was Wampanoag.
Wampanoag? Yes, yes. So I was privileged to watch that and to watch Black on Black. So have you done a lot of speaking events in different places? Have you spoke a lot? Like I think you were at the, good morning, Sally. I think you were at the Black Historical Center and you talked about DNA testing. And so,
yes, I'm a member of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical okay. So yes, I'm a society. Yeah. So I'm a member of that, and they invited me when they knew that I found many blood-related African Americans cousins here in the U.S. who disappeared. Hello?
Yeah, and did you want to talk about project?
It's hard to speak when I don't see you.
Now, did you when you grew up in Cote d'Ivoire, you mentioned, I wanted to bring out some little known facts about Mr. Zado. He loves reggae, reggae music.
Right.
And did you first discover reggae back in Africa, in Cote d'Ivoire?
Oh yeah, and I was very young back then. I was starting middle school when I discovered reggae. I think the first album I listened to was The Harder They Come, the soundtrack of the movie The Harder They Come, with Jimmy Cliff and other people, Toots and all those people. And afterwards I discovered other very big singers like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and Ijaman Levi and Steel Pulse and Third World and all those people. So yeah, it was in my country, and reggae is big in my country. Do you know Alpha Blondy?
No.
Oh, he's one of the most successful reggae singer in the world, and he's from the Ivory Coast.
No. Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, so they sing reggae in Ivory Coast. Oh,
A lot of people sing reggae there.
Would you consider yourself a Pan-Africanist? Pan-Africanism?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
And I think reggae had an influence on my view as a Pan-Africanist, because of the liberation message, and it's when I was a kid, I listened to songs like Peter Tosh, right? Peter Tosh, he has a song called African, and in the song he says, "Don't care where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you are an African." Yeah. So listen to those kind of songs, you become Pan-Africanist, and yes, I consider myself Pan-Africanist.
Does everybody know here what that means, Pan-Africanist? I'm not...
Here in the U.S.
Yeah. Could you define...
Say a little more about that, please.
Yeah, what is the definition of a Pan-Africanist? Because I studied it, and maybe some people don't know what it is.
No, my definition of Pan-Africanist is somebody you can be black or white or thing, but somebody who consider himself African wherever he is from the Caribbean or from Africa or elsewhere. and was aware of the issues that touches one black people in the world, touches all black people in the world, and the fight for the rights for all black people in the world. So this is a little bit quickly the meaning I give to being a Pan-Africanist. You disappeared again.
Yes, and anybody else have any questions for Zadi? Could you pronounce your name for me, please?
Oh, for you, I would say Zadi, Zoku. Just Zadi is good.
All right, does anybody have any questions? I can keep asking and asking, but
Okay, well,
please jump in.
Elaine here. I have a question about dancing, because I'm a dancer. So say a little bit about movement and dance.
In my country or in general?
Well, let's start with what you're most familiar with.
Okay, in my country, we have a lot of dances. It depends on the tribe you are from. You have people like me, where I'm a Bete, but the larger group is the group Crew that you can find in Liberia also. So you have the Akans, you have the Mande, you have, so depending on the group, you have a sort of dance. In my tribe, we dance a lot with the feet or the legs. Yeah, it's very, athletic, something like that. We dance a lot with the legs. Yeah, but in general, in the country, and in most African countries, especially for women, we like to dance. They like to dance with the, let's say, the butt, the behind.
I didn't hear that. Would you please repeat?
They like to shake the behind.
Okay.
Shake the butt.
Okay.
So
Shake it, move it.
Daddy, my mother Peg Younger just my mother's on the phone, on the line. I just wanted to say hi to her. Hi, Mom.
Hi, Deb.
So that's my mom and Fiona and Karen. Is that your wife, Karen?
Yeah.
Hi, Karen. So Zaddy, we are actually, Elaine brought up dance, and I'm glad you brought it up because next week at the Limited Well, and Sally, I told you about this, we're having African dance lessons.
And African dance from where?
I don't know yet. I have.
Because when that's what I was amazed with when I came here. People say African dance, but sometimes it's specific from a region.
Yeah.
For instance, Senegalese dancers, they are different from dance from my tribe, for instance, or dance from Congo. So I think people need to be more specific instead of saying African dance.
Well, Zeli, I have a video with a master teacher, and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, he is a master drummer. So could you talk a little about the drum in Africa and what the significance of drums are in general?
Okay, the drum is the beat also, like a heartbeat. Yeah, it's
right.
and in most places on the continent, it's something like give the rhythm of the dance. But also in some parts of Africa, like in the Akans, the drum is a way of communicating with people. Yeah, the Ashanti, for instance, they communicate. It was like their phone in the old times. There was a code with the drum.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know, African Americans, we were stripped of all of our culture. And of our drummings and of all our languages. And we came and we didn't have that, but we developed our own African-American culture. But one of the things that we did maintain was our way of dancing, our music. And when I went back to Africa, Zaddy, one of the first things I was greeted with was the drum in Senegal. I remember that, the drumming. So now you have my Aunt Cynthia on the line. Hi, Aunt Cynthia. So these are two African American women that are elders in my community. So one's my aunt, one's my mother. So can you talk about the role of the ancestors and how elders are treated in Africa as opposed to how they're treated in United States? African Americans treat their elders, but I think we have the same mentality as Africans in the Pan-African viewpoint. But in the elderships in Africa, you have the griot. Is that correct? Could you talk a little about griots and elders?
Yeah, griot, they're not really from where I come from, but I know a little bit about them. They're more in the Mandingos culture, like in Mali, in Senegal, and the griot is the storyteller of the society. Yeah, most of the time the griot knows the story of all families in the tribe. So there's no written story there. So the griot is the one in charge of telling people stories. So that's mainly what the griot is a storyteller. In the community. And they're very knowledgeable because they learn the whole story of the tribes and the people.
Well, how can they memorize all that stuff in their head?
But you know, the thing is, those communities were not big. It was not countries. It was just a small village. So everybody knows everybody. So it's but there were bigger communities like the Mandingo Empire. So I don't know how they learn it because I'm not initiated to. Right. But they are the storytellers of the thing. And it's passed on from father to sons to parents to sons, and so they learn that.
So speaking of that, could you tell me how Roots? You said you watched Roots when you were growing up in Africa. How did that have an effect on you?
Oh, Roots I was in high school back then, and we call it Racine. Roots, Racine in French. Yeah, it had, let's say we learn about slavery and the slave trades in school over there. Not very deeply, but we learn about that. But Roots added a new level of comprehension of what's really happened here in the US. So it had a big effect because it opened our eyes on what people experienced when they came here. Yeah, I think it added a new level of comprehension of.
So before that, you knew about the slave trade and the transactional slave trade, but you didn't really know what happened once the slaves got to America. Is that what you're really saying?
No, I'm saying that we knew a little bit what happened here, that they work in plantations and cotton and things like that there was some violence, but we didn't know that it was that much, and we didn't really understand I'm going to speak for myself, not everybody, but I didn't really understand the implications of coming here and losing everything. And I didn't really understand that before watching Roots. And what I didn't understand, I didn't know also is the way people lost their cultures and everything here when they came. Because I remember one scene when Kunta Kinte didn't want to say that to accept the name Toby.
Yes.
And he was beaten and beaten and beaten until he says that my name is Toby. So those experiences were things I didn't really know before watching Roots, how people lost the process of how they lost their culture and everything. Yeah, that was very powerful.
Did that cause you to have more compassion toward African Americans as an African man?
Yeah, me personally, I had more compassion. And as I told you before, I was prepared for this compassion and for this history also because of reggae. Because reggae used to tell some stories about slavery and everything. So after listening to all these songs and watching Roots, yeah, I had more compassion for African Americans, but not just African Americans, all people from the diaspora.
Is that why you did Black and Black, your movie?
Oh, Black and Black was maybe 25, 30 years later.
Oh, you said
But,
because of the African American who.
Yeah, no, but let's say my mind was shaped by all of this, and one of the end results was making Black and Black.
Okay. I want to open it up now to questions from the audience. If anybody, Sally, anybody has any questions for Zadi? Have you seen any of his films? Do you have any questions on that, or would you like to see his films? Any questions for him?
Could you tell us where we could find your films virtually?
Springtown, I sent Deborah a link to Vimeo. Yeah, it's Vimeo on demand, so you can rent the movie there. Black and Black, so far I show it in colleges and communities and yeah. So, but if you want to watch it, I can make an exception here. If you send me a Gmail account, I can send you the link and you pay me whatever you want.
Okay, that sounds good.
Great. Deborah, would you put his address in the chat later?
Yes, I will. I'll send it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then
You're welcome.
hey, so Zadi, you know, I was gonna get down to the nitty and the gritty. You heard about what happened to George Floyd.
Yeah.
And you know why we created why Native Black Lives Matter started with the young man, what was his name? That got murdered. He wore the hoodie because of the hoodie.
Was it Emmett Till?
No.
Trayvon Martin.
Trayvon Martin.
Okay, Craven, right.
Can you give us some views on the Black Lives Matter movement? Do you think that African people in general are aware of it, and how do you feel about that in the civil rights movement that was done here in US? So just go for it. We'll listen.
About Black Lives Matter, it's not just Africans who are aware of that now. The whole world is aware of that because last year it was all over the world, and it was not just Black Lives Matter now, but it was many other issues that were raised through the Black Lives Matter movement. No, I think that's a good question because you know what happened here to George Floyd. In a certain sense, it's something that happens in other countries also, like France. Yeah, when I went to France, the last time I went to France for Black and Black, yeah, we had this discussion. And somebody told me that the same thing happened here in France. But the difference between France and the US is that African Americans have this habit of fighting and raise their voice. And that's very remarkable. And that's something that we should, everywhere where Black people are, it's something that we should emulate because, yeah, it's great. So Black Lives Matter, yeah, it's something that I appreciate, that I encourage, that I commend. And the civil rights movement in general, yeah, I learned about it a little bit when I was in high school, and I knew all the leaders and things like that. But I think Black Lives Matter is much bigger, maybe because it's not as organized as those who came before them. Yeah, and it's a popular movement, yeah, and sometimes it's spontaneous, and that's what makes its strength. So. Yeah, and what was the other question?
Did I lose you?
Debbie, you're muted.
Sorry, I was intrigued by this other question is when you wrote in Black and Black that you, or I don't know which movie it was, but you wanted to find your African American cousin or relative. So I never thought about that somebody from Africa would want to find the African American ancestor. I mean, because as African American, we want to go back. We want to know where we came from in Africa. But for you to want to know where my lost cousins are in Africa in America, that was intriguing to me.
Yeah,
You actually found them, right?
Yeah, and I keep finding them, and I found a lot of them. And at some point, I was wondering if I was not, if part of me was not African American. Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it's a good story because how did I come to that? It's just that my wife, she did her DNA test and she found a lot of course, she is Irish American, so it was easier for her to find a lot of family members and ancestors. They have documents and everything. So, but she was so passionate about that she asked me to try to find to try the DNA and see what I can find. But I was not sure that I would find somebody here in the US, maybe some people in Africa, but not in the US. But something told me, just try and see. You never know. So I did, and I was amazed. Yeah, it was just incredible. I have hundreds of them. And the thing is, it's not random people like that. But many times it's people from the same family or some family that are related who know each other. It's mother and kids. So, and I have some who are as close as fourth cousins. Means that we share a recent great-grandparent, a third great-grandparent. So in my case, somebody who was born in the mid-1800s. So it's so I keep getting some, and recently on 23andMe, I found one with whom I share a lot of DNA, almost 40 something organs. That's very big. For other people, that's not big because, but for an African and an African American to share 40 something organs of DNA, that's just amazing. So he's somebody who's from Rhode Island, but he lives in California. I'm going to get in touch with him. And the other thing is that I'm finding more people from Latin America now. And there are two ladies who live here in Massachusetts, and they have a sister in Texas. Yeah, I share DNA with them. And I saw their background on the website. They are from Peru, but their grandparents are from Dominican Republics. So I guess that I'm part of their grandparents' African heritage. So I'm going to get in touch with them also, hoping that they're right back. So it's very fascinating, and I'm still doing the research. Now we can speak about that for hours if you don't stop me.
I'm sure when they find, go ahead.
But the thing is, so I want to find the ancestor or ancestors I share with all those people. Yeah, I want to find these ancestors. So my dad, last year before he passed away, he told me a story about one of our ancestors. He gave me the name, and we share the same name, Zadi, because with my people, we give kids the name of a parent that we like. Yeah, so I was called Zadi after another Zadi who was called Zadi after this guy that was sold into slavery here. So he told me the story of the guy, and according to his story, I think that the guy would be the ancestor would be a kind of third great grand uncle, and he might have come here around 1850, 1860, and that's the same times where the Clotilda brought some people here. So of course I'm not from Benin or Dahomey to be, so I don't think my ancestor was on the ship, but still we never know. So I got in touch with the descendant of the Clotilda. Yeah, the descendant of the Clotilda, they are in Alabama. They responded. They have an event tomorrow, but after the event, yeah, we're going to speak and see if we can share DNA result and see if I have some DNA relatives among them.
Well, this seems like it could be another movie, Zaddy. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Sally, I just want to ask Sally. Sally's on our committee at Black Lives Matter. She helps with the book. We have a lending library now, Zadie. And everybody, if you are interested, we have a lending library, right, Sally?
We're working on that, yes.
Looking at- Do you have a
Put it at
question?
Common Street.
Yeah, do you have a
Oh.
question?
I don't. You're asking such great questions, and Zadi, it's such an honor to listen to your story. But I love your questions, Deb.
Mhm.
And Elaine has asked some awfully good ones too. So I'm just learning a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, I have
It's
another
an
one.
honor to have you.
And I think that, yes, thank you for everybody showing up today. I was afraid that I wouldn't have anybody here. So what do you think about the critical race theory, that whole debate? And the burning
Yeah,
of
I think,
books and stuff.
yeah. What do you mean by critical race theory? Because I think critical race theory is something that is taught in colleges.
Yes.
Yeah, but now if it's about telling the whole American history to kids, if that's what you mean by critical race theory, yeah, I think I'm for teaching the whole story to kids and to everybody. People need to know not just one side of the story, but the whole story. You know, recently, I think a few months ago, we took a trip to Virginia, and we went to Monticello, the house of Thomas Jefferson. So we visited the place, and afterward we took the slave tour, where we learned that Thomas Jefferson, the father of the Emancipation Proclamation, we learned that over his lifetime, he owned 607 or 17 enslaved Africans, despite writing the Proclamation of Independence. So he's known for being a founding father, but many people don't know that he was also a big slave owner. And he even had 6 kids with one of his slaves, Sally Hemings. And this is stories people don't know, and people need to know. You see? So I think we should just teach the whole story to the kids and everybody now is going to do with these stories what he or she wants, but not leave aside one part and just teach in other parts. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Elaine.
Nothing, no, I'm just agreeing, nodding noisily.
And do you know about the 1619 project? I think you have a hat. 1619.
Yeah, with this, in 1619, I read the New York Times the World
Do
Series.
you want to explain to people what that is? Maybe they don't
Yeah.
know what it is.
Please. Yeah.
Explaining, yeah. In fact, it was a series of history related to African American history here in the U.S. Yeah, it was right before the 400 years of when African Americans came first in the U.S. So it was a series of stories, hidden stories for the most part, that were revealed by the New York Times. And this journalist, always forget her name, but yeah. But it was very good. I mean, I learned a lot when reading those stories, and it made me curious to learn more about African American history in this country, because I guess that it's not very well taught, and it's not taught at all most of the time.
That I would like to say it's been mind opening to see to read the 1619 Project. It's confounding because it's so revealing, and it really has helped. It's helping an awful lot of us understand so much more and see history differently. It's phenomenal.
And so,
And
Sally,
I would like to
go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to add about history here in the US. It's just always one part of the story. Mm-hmm. Let's speak about Natick, for instance. In Natick, in Massachusetts. Yeah, as I said, we like to celebrate Thanksgiving. Everything is beautiful, everything is. But people not really teach about King Philip's War. Mm-hmm. That is in the same vein. People don't know that. And here in Natick, we know more about the Morses and the things and that, but people didn't know that there were slaves here in Natick. Mm. And some enslaved people here in Natick fought the Civil War. People don't know that. And there are names and everything that I put in the movie. People don't know that. And people don't know that in Boston, for instance, there were a lot of enslaved people in Boston, because the British census of 1754 that I put in the movie also shows the number of slaves in Boston. There were about 1,000 in Boston only. And in all those towns around Boston, Natick, Wellesley, and the documents are here in the Massachusetts Historical Society. But people don't teach all of this.
Yeah.
And I think people should know and make their own conclusions.
Helpful.
So Zado, we're very appreciative of you and your wife, Karen, and we're grateful to have you at school, our Native Black Lives Matter think tank, and we're going to start having sessions where we go to the Common Street Spiritual Center. And we're going to listen to you, Zadie, as you teach us more of these facts. And of course, you'll be compensated. Oh, yes.
Yeah, if you give me the topic and things, I can prepare better before coming.
Yes, we're going to do this. And we're just happy to have you. Go ahead, Mom.
All right. Hello.
Uh-oh.
Hi.
Bye.
Could you introduce yourself? Oh. She's gone. Cynthia, do you want to introduce yourself and say who you are?
Hi, everyone. I'm Cynthia.
Do you have any questions for Zadie? So cool.
No, I've been listening, and I feel thankful for the education that people are interested in education about the truth, not just about what this side said, in the true facts that are substantial. It's true facts, and that's the thing that people keep avoiding about. It's the true facts of history. Yeah, I'm the United States. Everyone else knows our history better than we do. Other countries know our history, know the tragedies, the good part, and they see the good parts, but they don't live within the country to see some of the devastation that people of color, immigration, other ethnic races come into the country and the racism that we endure. So everyone should know the truth. I mean, the real truth. Not about.
Everyone should know. Yeah, absolutely. We have to tell those stories, and that's what I'm trying to tell also. But in my little capacity, because yeah, I'm not African American, but I grab informations here and there, and I try to learn. Yeah, and making the movies is my way of learning the story also. It's my way of learning the story. So.
And Zadie, we just have to wrap up, but I have a burning question. When you were growing up in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, did you learn about the great kingdoms in Africa, like all the things that happened in?
Oh yeah, in school we learn about all these empires, like Mandingo empires, Soso, Songhai, Mali, Ghana, and yeah, we learn about them. We learn about Sundiata Keita and the Battle of Kirina in 1235. Yeah, we learn about the Mosi Empire, the Moronaba. Yeah.
So that
in my country, I don't know in other countries what they learn, but in my country, yeah, we learn all of that.
So you said like Abidjan was like they have big cities, right? They're known.
Yeah, Abidjan is a very big city. Yeah.
So do you think like because of that, you think that Cote d'Ivoire is more of an intellectual country in Africa? You know, do you have colleges? Do you have major colleges? This seems like it's more, is it more education focused? Like, you know how Massachusetts, we have Harvard, we have Abidjan, is that a sort of like a college, you know, like intellectual city?
No, I think all cities in Africa, all big cities you find intellectuals. No, I would say Abidjan is most modern. And people who live in Abidjan, they live a very modern way of life. Yeah, you can see the city everywhere online. Yeah, just Google Abidjan and you'll see. Yeah, it's but intellectual. I don't know really what's happened in other countries, but in my country, let's say many people go to school there.
Yeah,
many people go to school there.
In what country is Timbuktu? Timbuktu, where is that in Africa?
It's in Mali.
Timbuktu is in Mali?
Yeah.
Well, see, as an African American, that was why, and my aunt Cynthia will tell you, I always studied African history. Growing up, I was intrigued, and I became the regional assistant for Africa, Oxfam. I don't know if you ever heard of Oxfam America. I became the regional assistant for Oxfam America. But one of the things I hope that you could teach us, Zadi, is some of these lessons about the ancient empires in Africa. Because I would really love to learn, and I want to teach my nieces, my children, that they weren't just, you know, we didn't come over here with nothing. We had a culture. When we were in Africa, we had culture. We had dance. We had language. You know, the myth is that we didn't have anything, but that's not true, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's that's that. I can do that. I'm going to try to find my old books from high school and things. But you know, there's a resource here, the African Studies Center. Yeah, the African Studies Center. Yeah, I work a lot with them at BU.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a lot of resources there, so I can still work with them and gather some more information. Yeah, I can do that.
We would like a film on. I'm just going to throw this up. We would like a film on the ancient empires of Africa. If you could write that down.
Oh,
we'd like a film on that.
If I can make a film about that, or if I can find a film about that.
You could make one.
Good
You're
luck.
going to pay a lot of money because that's very expensive.
Well, just find one. Find one for
Yeah,
us, please.
Yeah.
So,
No, no, it's something that that I can do, and I think I'm going to try to
yeah,
remember everything we learned in high school.
yeah, because you're now the historical African director of Black
No,
Lives
but
Matter.
you know, I know many people, some professors here of American studies, some historians and people like that, but they might be a bit expensive because
Yes.
they would charge something. But I know a bunch of them,
Okay.
yeah, and we work together sometimes.
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to say, or anything you want to say? How has Black Lives Matter Natick helped you? Or what do you feel the significance and importance of Native Black Lives Matter is? If you could
No,
say.
I think it's very important. It's very significant.
Zado, do you have any last words or anything?
Oh, one last word is I thank you for the opportunity, and I keep working on things. And right now I'm working on my next project that's going to be about the names, why African Americans are creating typical African American first names, and why, on the other hand, African from the continent are using more and more European and Arabic names. Why is that? And what is the impact of having a non-conventional name here in US, especially on African Americans? So that's something I'm working on right now.
Well, it's harder to get jobs, I'll tell you that, if you have a
Yes.
Shinakwa kind of name.
Thank you.
All right,
Oh,
thank
you're
you so
welcome.
much. God bless you.
Mhm.
And
Bless
have a
you.
good day.
So have
Thanks,
a great
Deborah.
weekend.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you for coming,
Bye.
Daddy. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.